Wildlife safaris offer a thrilling chance to witness nature in its rawest form, bringing people face to face with some of the world's most majestic creatures. But when safety guidelines are ignored or unpredictable moments arise, these adventures can take a dark and tragic turn. The following list explores 5 of the most disturbing and unforgettable deaths that occurred during wildlife safaris. What was meant to be a peaceful safari outing in Zambia turned into a tragic reminder of how unpredictable wildlife encounters can be. Juliana Glouro, a 64-year-old tourist from New Mexico, was visiting Zambia and took part in a guided safari near the Maramba Cultural Bridge in Livingstone. The group stopped as a herd of elephants crossed the road, a fairly common occurrence in the region and usually a highlight for many visitors. However, what happened next ended in tragedy. According to initial police reports, an elephant approached the vehicle and pulled Juliana out before fatally trampling her. But this version of events was later questioned by the Livingstone Tourism Association. In their statement, they clarified that the tourists had exited the vehicle, something strictly against national park rules. They emphasized that such an attack, where an elephant pulls someone from a vehicle, has never been reported before in Africa or Asia. Regardless of the exact circumstances, the incident has raised concerns and conversations around safari safety and the importance of following guidelines when observing wild animals. This was the second fatal elephant encounter involving a U.S. tourist in Zambia this year. Back in March, 79-year-old Gail Matson from Minnesota lost her life during a game drive in Zambia's Kafue National Park. In that case, a charging elephant flipped over the safari vehicle she was riding in. Gail died in the incident, and 5 others were injured. A video that later surfaced showed the elephant approaching quickly, with someone in the vehicle saying, "It's coming fast," just before the animal made contact. The vehicle tried to stop, but the elephant hooked it with its tusks and rolled it over. Gail's daughter later shared on Facebook that her mother had died in a tragic accident while on her dream adventure. In light of these events, Zambian authorities have reminded tourists and tour operators to exercise extra caution around wildlife. The core message is simple: wild animals, while incredible to observe, are still wild and unpredictable. Parks across Africa have clear rules to help keep visitors safe, like staying inside safari vehicles at all times and keeping a safe distance from animals. These rules aren't just for show. They're based on years of experience and observation. Zambia, along with neighboring countries like Zimbabwe and Botswana, is also seeing growing elephant populations. With that comes an increased risk of human-wildlife encounters, especially in areas where tourism is on the rise. It's worth noting that safaris are generally very safe when rules are followed and guides are respected. Thousands of people enjoy them every year without incident. However, these recent tragedies are a reminder of why safety protocols matter and why no photo or close-up look is worth risking a life. If you ever find yourself on a safari, remember, the experience is about observing and respecting wildlife in their natural habitat. Staying alert, following your guide's instructions, and keeping your distance are essential steps to ensuring a safe and memorable adventure. This incident, while heartbreaking, can help educate future visitors and reinforce the importance of responsible tourism, something that benefits both humans and the animals we travel so far to see. In June 2015, Katherine Chappelle, a 29-year-old visual effects editor from New York, arrived in South Africa with a mission. She wasn't there as a typical tourist. Her goal was bigger, more purposeful: to spend 2 weeks volunteering at a wildlife sanctuary that focused on protecting endangered species like rhinos and elephants. With a camera in hand and a heart full of passion for animals and nature, she dreamed of eventually creating a documentary that would expose the horrors of animal poaching. For her, this trip was more than an escape. It was the beginning of something meaningful. Katherine had always lived with a deep sense of adventure. Her work in film had taken her across continents, from Europe to Japan, and more recently to Canada, where she had worked on major productions, including HBO's Game of Thrones. But as impressive as her professional journey was, It was her curiosity about the natural world and her drive to protect it that defined her most. On that fateful day, Katherine decided to take a break from her volunteering duties to experience one of South Africa's popular wildlife attractions, the Lion Park, just outside Johannesburg. The park offers visitors the rare opportunity to see lions up close from the safety of their vehicles. It's the kind of thrill that leaves a lasting impression, but with such proximity comes strict rules. Chief among them, never open your windows. Katherine joined a guided drive through the reserve, likely excited at the chance to get some clear photographs of the majestic animals she admired so much. The lions wandered freely within the park, used to the presence of humans and vehicles, but still very much wild at heart. At some point during the drive, her window was rolled down, just enough to allow her camera to capture the moment. What happened next was sudden and devastating. A lioness approached the vehicle. In a split second, the calm of the scene was shattered. The animal lunged through the open window and attacked. The driver, reportedly a local tour operator, tried to intervene and was seriously injured in the process. Despite the efforts, Katherine was fatally wounded. The attack shocked the world and made headlines across international media. It was a tragic end to a journey that had been filled with hope, compassion, and purpose. Officials at the Lion Park confirmed the attack and reiterated the importance of keeping vehicle windows closed at all times. Sadly, it was not the first such incident the park had seen. Earlier that year, an Australian tourist had been bitten by a lion under similar circumstances. A teenager had also been attacked by a cheetah after entering the park on a bicycle. Yet another reminder of how unpredictable and powerful wild animals can be. Following Katherine's death, the lioness involved in the incident was not euthanized, but was removed from public areas. The park reinforced its safety rules, emphasizing once again the line that separates humans from the wild, and how crucial it is not to cross it even with good intentions. Katherine's story became more than just a tragic headline. It served as a lesson on the thin line between admiration and intrusion when it comes to wildlife. She had come to South Africa to protect animals, to tell their story, and to help preserve their future. Ironically and tragically, her passion for that world brought her too close to it. Her family, friends, and those who followed her work remember her not only as a talented visual artist, but as someone who wanted to make a difference. Her journey, though heartbreakingly short, continues to inspire conversations about conservation, responsible tourism, and the wild beauty that, for all its wonder, still demands caution and respect. Katherine's legacy lives on as a reminder. When we enter the natural world, we are visitors, guests in a space that doesn't belong to us, and even the most noble intentions must be paired with awareness, humility, and care. In the summer of 2017, Carol Sue Kirkin from Rochester Hills, Michigan, set out on what was meant to be a memorable family vacation to Tanzania. The plan was a classic African safari, a chance to explore the wild landscapes and experience nature's majesty up close. For Carol, 75 years old, this trip was more than just a holiday. It was an adventure, a celebration of life, and time spent with loved ones in a faraway land. Carol was no ordinary traveler. She was a woman known in her community for her kindness, strength, and dedication to helping others. As a founding member of the Rochester Area Women's Fund, she had spent years supporting initiatives aimed at empowering women. She also volunteered frequently at the North Oakland YMCA, where she worked to support military families. Her spirit was generous, and her impact deeply felt by those who knew her. This trip was, in many ways, a reflection of her adventurous soul, someone who embraced life fully and sought to create meaningful experiences wherever she went. The family's safari took place in the stunning landscapes of Tanzania, where wildlife roams free and the natural world reveals itself in spectacular ways. But what began as an exciting expedition quickly turned tragic. On August 5th, during a moment near the waterside, Carol was attacked by a hippopotamus, one of the continent's most powerful and unpredictable animals. The encounter was sudden and devastating, and despite the presence and efforts of her son, who was with her at the time, Carol succumbed to her injuries. She passed away in his arms, a heartbreaking end to a journey meant to celebrate life. News of Carol's death spread quickly through her hometown and beyond, leaving friends, family, and community members in shock. Those who knew her described her as a force of nature, someone who quietly inspired others through her actions rather than words. Her loss was felt deeply, a stark reminder of how fragile life can be, especially when faced with the raw unpredictability of the wild. In the aftermath, social media became a place where loved ones shared memories and offered condolences. Tributes poured in, speaking of Carol's warmth, her willingness to support others, and the way she took those around her under her wing. Many noted that she had a unique way of encouraging people to find their own path. She didn't dictate what to see or think, but helped others learn to look at the world through their own eyes. The tragedy also sparked conversations about the inherent risks involved in wildlife safaris. While safaris offer unforgettable encounters with nature, they also come with dangers that can't be ignored. Hippos, despite their seemingly slow and docile appearance, are among Africa's most aggressive animals, responsible for more human fatalities than many other species. Carol's death underscored the importance of vigilance and respect for wildlife behavior, reminding travelers that even the most seasoned adventurers are vulnerable in the wild. Her passing was not just a loss to her family, but also to the community she served so passionately. Carol left behind her husband, Bill, their 3 children, and 5 grandchildren. The legacy she built through her volunteer work and her genuine care for others remains alive, continuing to inspire those who carry her memory forward. Carol Sue Kirkin's story is a poignant mix of adventure and tragedy. It's a tale that highlights the beauty and unpredictability of the natural world, and the importance of approaching it with both wonder and caution. It also tells of a life well lived, a woman who embraced every moment with generosity and courage, leaving behind a legacy that reaches far beyond the boundaries of her own life. Her journey to Africa was meant to be a celebration, a time of connection with family and nature, but it also became a solemn reminder of how quickly things can change when the wild asserts its power. In May 2013, a tragic event unfolded at South Lakes Wild Animal Park in Dalton-in-Furness, a quiet area in South Cumbria. Sarah McLeod, a 24-year-old keeper originally from Glasgow, lost her life in a horrifying encounter with one of the park's Sumatran tigers. Known for her dedication and experience working with big cats, Sarah had spent more than 2 years at the zoo, which she considered a privilege. However, on this day, a fatal failure in safety protocols turned her passion into tragedy. The tiger, named Padang, was able to escape through a series of unlocked and malfunctioning gates inside the tiger house. These gates were designed to keep the dangerous animals and their keepers separated at all times, featuring lockable, self-closing doors meant to prevent any accidental encounters. But a defective bolt on one of these gates failed to close properly, allowing the tiger to enter the corridor where Sarah was working. The attack was brutal and swift, leaving Sarah with multiple deep puncture wounds to her neck and body that were unsurvivable. Despite being airlifted to a hospital, she was pronounced dead shortly after the incident. The loss sent shockwaves through the community, her colleagues and family, all of whom struggled to come to terms with the sudden and violent nature of her death. Following the incident, an inquest was held in Kendall, where a jury delivered a narrative verdict. They found that the tiger had gained access to Sarah by entering through 2 open sliding gates within the tiger house before moving through the door that led to the corridor. These lapses in security were not simply human error, but were tied to systemic problems with the zoo's safety systems, particularly the faulty door mechanism that failed to close securely. The zoo, which has since been renamed South Lakes Safari Zoo, admitted to breaching the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. It acknowledged that it had failed to ensure that people who were not staff were kept out of harm's way, and, crucially, that it had not addressed the risks associated with the defective door bolt prior to the attack. The case revealed a troubling picture of inadequate safety measures and poor risk management within the park. Legal proceedings culminated in a significant fine for the zoo, nearly 300,000 pounds, with 42,500 pounds of this specifically related to another health and safety breach from July 2014, when a keeper fell from a ladder while preparing to feed the big cats. In addition, the zoo was ordered to cover 150,000 pounds in prosecution costs over the next decade, underscoring the seriousness of its safety failings. David Gill, the zoo's owner, faced individual charges related to the same allegations, but was formally acquitted. Nonetheless, the burden of responsibility remained heavily on the zoo as an institution. Padang, the tiger involved in the fatal attack, was kept alive for some time after the incident, as Sarah's family requested that he not be put down. However, due to his age, the tiger was euthanized a year later, closing a difficult chapter for those involved. The judge overseeing the case made it clear that the tiger's ability to enter Sarah's workspace should never have been possible. He stated that the malfunctioning door mechanism was a substantial contributing factor that directly led to the tragedy. It was a predictable risk that the zoo had failed to mitigate, leading to fatal consequences. The aftermath of the incident saw Sarah's family grappling with immense grief and the painful process of healing. While the guilty plea from the zoo brought some measure of closure, it could not erase the loss or the sense of shock felt by those who loved her. Her family expressed a mixture of relief and vindication, as the case highlighted that the blame did not lie with Sarah, but rather with the zoo's unsafe working conditions. Sarah's brother was particularly vocal in pointing out that the zoo had been punished appropriately for its failures, and that it was fortunate the tragedy had not resulted in more loss of life. The case left the zoo at a crossroads. It needed to either implement serious improvements to safety measures or face the possibility of closure. This tragic story serves as a powerful reminder of the critical importance of rigorous safety standards in places that house dangerous animals. It highlights how even small oversights, like a defective bolt, can lead to devastating consequences. The loss of Sarah McLeod, a dedicated and experienced keeper, underscores the human cost when safety is compromised. Her death remains a somber lesson in the responsibilities wildlife parks carry to protect those who work tirelessly to care for some of the world's most powerful creatures. On a summer Sunday in Yellowstone National Park, the tranquility of the wild was suddenly disrupted by a clash between man and beast. A 47-year-old visitor from Cape Coral, Florida, approached a bison, an act that, though common among curious tourists, often comes with serious consequences. The massive animal, feeling threatened, responded swiftly and powerfully, goring the man. He was left with minor injuries and quickly treated by emergency medical personnel. While he survived the incident, it marked yet another reminder of the dangers that lurk behind Yellowstone's breathtaking beauty. This was the first bison-related injury of the year, but the fourth since 2023. The pattern is as troubling as it is predictable. In a place where nature reigns supreme, the rules are simple. Keep your distance, respect the wildlife, and never assume safety in close proximity to animals that, despite their seemingly slow pace and docile appearances, are still wild at heart. The recent incident adds to a growing list of unfortunate encounters. Just last year, an 83-year-old woman from South Carolina found herself on the wrong end of a bison's horns after getting too close. The force of the animal lifted her nearly a foot off the ground, leaving her with serious injuries. A few months earlier, a man under the influence of alcohol had harassed a herd and even kicked one of the bison, a reckless act that ended, unsurprisingly, in him being injured. There was also the tragic case of a newborn bison calf that paid the price for human interference. A man, perhaps believing he was helping, touched and disturbed the calf. As a result, the young animal was rejected by its herd. Park officials, unable to reintroduce it safely, had no choice but to euthanize it. The man was later convicted of disturbing wildlife, a charge that speaks volumes about the importance of boundaries in the park. Yellowstone is not just another national park, it's a living museum of American wildlife, home to the largest population of bison on public land in the country. These animals are survivors, symbols of a species that once teetered on the brink of extinction. In the late 1800s, bison were hunted so aggressively that their numbers plummeted from an estimated 30 million to fewer than 1,000. The devastation was not accidental. Historians and researchers agree that U.S. government policies encouraged the slaughter, in part to disrupt the lives of Native American tribes that depended on the bison for sustenance, clothing, tools, and shelter. By 1902, only about 24 bison remained in Yellowstone. What followed was a century-long conservation effort that stands today as one of the most celebrated triumphs in American environmental history. Thanks to careful management and strict protections, Yellowstone's bison population has rebounded dramatically. Today, over 5,000 of these majestic animals roam the park's valleys and grasslands, often crossing into neighboring parts of Montana. Despite this success, the bison's resilience comes with a cautionary tale. They are not zoo exhibits, nor are they gentle giants. Bison can weigh up to 2,000 pounds and run at speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, 3 times faster than the average human. They are protective of their space, unpredictable, and highly responsive to perceived threats. Most injuries happen because visitors ignore warning signs, both literal and metaphorical, lured by the false belief that proximity equals safety. The National Park Service repeatedly urges visitors to keep at least 25 yards away from bison at all times. Still, each year brings new stories of people who cross the invisible line, sometimes for a photo, sometimes out of ignorance, and sometimes simply because they forget that Yellowstone isn't a petting zoo. It's a slice of the wild, preserved in all its raw, untamed glory. The man injured this year may have walked away with only minor wounds, but others haven't been so lucky.